On my 62nd birthday, my son and his wife were selling my life as legacy in a hotel ballroom, while I waited alone at home with a table set for 8. And the worst part? I only found out because I made the most dangerous mistake a lonely woman can make in 2025. I opened social media. But that came later. That morning, I still believed my family would show up. Monterey fog pressed against the windows, soft and gray, the way light gets when it's trying to be kind. I moved slowly through the house, letting my hands remember who they were, before legacy became a word Brianna liked to use in every sentence. I wiped the dining table with the care you give a piano before company. Linen runner down the middle, candles in Arthur's old silver holders, the white plates with the thin pearl rim, our wedding set, went out one by one. They aren't fancy, but candlelight taught them to look like they belong in magazines. I wrote 8 place cards in my neatest hand. Matthew, Brianna, Aunt Ruth, Cousin Carl, my sister Diane. 2 neighbors who always say, "We don't want to intrude," and then bring the best dessert. My own name went last, Helen. I put it at the head of the table and tried not to feel silly. In the kitchen, the roast sat in the oven, slow cooking with thyme and garlic. Potatoes ready to crisp, green beans blanched, waiting in a bowl of ice. Lemon cake cooling on the counter, because Arthur always said citrus reminds the mouth that life wakes up. I touched the small pearl necklace he gave me the night we burned our mortgage in the backyard grill. We'd stood under the stars, drunk on cheap champagne and relief. Our forever birthday, he'd called it, sliding the necklace into my hand. I was wearing it now. At 2 o'clock, I started calling, just to remind them, as if anyone forgets a mother's birthday by accident. 6 o'clock, I told each one. Don't bring anything. I have plenty. Matthew picked up on the second ring. His voice had the rushed brightness he uses when he wants to get off the phone. Mom, hey, today's crazy. We've got this, thing at the hotel. Brianna's presenting. We'll try to swing by after. At the hotel? On my birthday? It's just work, he said. We'll see how late it goes. I made your favorite roast, I said, hating the need in my own voice. Sounds great. Love you, Mom. We'll text. The line went dead so fast, the dial tone felt like a slap. I told myself it was fine. Work, schedules, adults with busy lives. 6 o'clock arrived like a guest who refuses to knock. The table glowed softly. The porch light was already on. My phone lay face up beside the salt and pepper, screen dark. No car in the driveway, no voices in the hall. At 6:15, I sent one text to the family group. Are you close? Just that. Hope doesn't need many words. At 6:30, the roast was perfect. I took it out so it wouldn't dry and set it on the stove. It sat there, steaming, like it was waiting for a verdict. I refolded napkins that didn't need refolding. Straightened knives, adjusted forks, moved 2 place cards closer together, then apart again. 8 chairs stared back at me like witnesses afraid to testify. By 7 o'clock, the silence wasn't an accident anymore. It was a decision. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the dining room, feeling small in a house we had once filled with noise. I told myself a familiar lie. They must have gotten stuck. Something came up. They'll be here any minute. That lie lasted exactly 3 more minutes. Then I picked up my phone. Just a quick check, I told myself. Maybe there was a message I'd missed. Maybe someone had texted, "Running late, don't cut the cake." There were no messages. But at the top of my feed sat a brand new post. The Miramar Bay Hotel Ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, polished floors, waiters in black vests, tables covered in white cloths, every surface glowing. In the center of the photo, my daughter-in-law Brianna, in a tailored white suit, holding a microphone, smile wide and practiced. The caption punched harder than any fist. So honored to host the Parker Legacy preview tonight. A new chapter for the Parker collection, stewarding this estate into its next life. Legacy. Grateful. The first thing I noticed wasn't her. Behind her, on velvet stands and inside glass cases, sat my life. The little watercolors from our den, the ones Arthur called our summer windows, lined up in a perfect row. My hallway mirror, the one I use to check my hair before I leave the house. A glass case filled with jewelry. My jewelry. I zoomed in, fingers trembling. There it was. My pearl necklace, the one lying on my collarbone right now, except it wasn't. In the photo, it hung on a velvet bust under glass, tagged with a neat, indifferent label. Lot 17, assorted jewelry, Estate Parker collection assorted. They had taken the necklace Arthur gave me when we finished paying off this house and filed it under assorted, like it came from a bargain bin. My chest went hot, then cold. I swiped. Second photo, A close-up of the jewelry case, the pearls, my gold wedding band. Another card, assorted rings, estate. In my ring, I knew there was an engraving on the inside. A heart's H, Arthur, and Helen. Apparently that part wasn't important enough for the label. Third photo, my son Matthew, standing beside Brianna, both holding champagne glasses. My sister and Aunt Ruth behind them, laughing. A long table in the background where my den watercolors and that hallway mirror had become curated pieces. The caption this time, when family trusts you with their legacy, you don't say no. Parker Collection, Shark's Stewardship Family. Trust. While I stood in my kitchen with a full roast and 8 empty chairs, I swiped again. In the next image, my pearl necklace sat there like a hostage, under a comment from some buyer. Obsessed with lot 17 already. I set the phone down very carefully on the table. If I didn't, it would have shattered against the wall. My pulse hammered in my ears. For a moment, breathing felt like dragging air through broken glass. They're selling my life, I said out loud to the empty room. On my birthday. The candles flickered. Smoke from the roast drifted through the air. The plates on the table didn't care. They just waited. I blew out the candles. The smoke curled up in thin lines like question marks. I stacked the 8 place cards one over the other. Matthew, Brianna, Ruth, Carl, Diane, neighbors, and pressed the little pile flat with my palm. Neatness is a small act of rebellion when the rest of your world decides to be messy. That was when the doorbell rang. For a heartbeat, hope did something stupid inside my chest. Maybe they finished early. Maybe they were about to shout, "Surprise!" I opened the door. No one stood there. Just a thick blue envelope lying on the welcome mat. Heavy paper, raised county seal. My husband's name printed on the front in formal type. Arthur James Parker, addendum. To be opened with counsel present. Someone had stamped return to sender across an outdated address, then scrawled my current one in pen. The forwarding order had expired. The envelope had been bouncing around somewhere between offices trying to find me, like everything else lately. I picked it up. It felt wrong in my hands, like a stone that had learned how to listen. Inside, I could feel the edges of folded documents. Arthur's fountain pen rested in the drawer by the door, exactly where he left it. The pen he used for things that mattered. The final mortgage check, the title transfer, the note he signed when we promised to stop arguing about the dishwasher. I took it out and set it next to the envelope on the dining table. On my phone, the hotel photos waited, glowing. My pearl necklace, rebranded as Assorted Jewelry Estate. My ring, assorted rings. My husband's gifts, my memories, my home, turned into lots with numbers and estimate ranges. In front of me, the blue envelope sat like a sealed threat. I didn't open it. Not yet. Arthur had written, "with counsel present," for a reason. He was stubborn, but he wasn't careless. I wrapped the roast, put the potatoes in containers, covered the lemon cake. Then I pulled out a notepad and wrote one clean sentence at the top of the page. On my 62nd birthday, my son and his wife sold my life as legacy in a hotel ballroom while I ate alone in my own house. Under it, I wrote, "Tomorrow, call Ethan Ward, bring the blue envelope, bring courage, leave tears at home." I turned off the dining room light. Only the porch light remained, glowing outside like a loyal dog waiting for guests who weren't coming. "Happy birthday," I told myself. "We are not finished." And for the first time that night, the anger in my chest burned hotter than the loneliness. The next morning, I walked into Ethan Ward's office with the blue envelope in one hand and my anger in the other. The building was all glass and clean lines, the kind of place designed to make rich people think everything is under control. It smelled like citrus cleaner and paper. Ethan met me in the doorway of his office, tie loosened, sleeves rolled just enough to say I work long hours. "Helen," he said, "you sounded serious on the phone." "Good," I answered, and set the envelope down between us. "Because my son and his wife are selling my life as a collection, and apparently my pearls are assorted jewelry estate." His eyes sharpened at that. "Show me," he said. I pulled out my phone and opened the Miramar Bay Post, Brianna under the chandeliers. The caption about stewarding the Parker legacy. The vitrine with lot 17. He zoomed in on the label. "Lot 17, assorted jewelry estate," he read. "And you're certain this is your necklace?" "Arthur gave it to me the night we finished paying for the house," I said. "I can close my eyes and tell you exactly where the clasp is starting to thin." He tapped the screen. "And this post was last night? While I had a birthday dinner set for 8, I said. Nobody came. He looked at me for one long second that said more than any "I'm sorry." Then he turned his attention to the blue envelope. The county seal on the flap had the same official weight every widow learns to hate. He ran a finger along the raised impression, then broke it with a letter opener. Inside there was a thin stack of papers, cover sheet, signature page, and something labeled addendum. He read silently at first. His jaw moved once. "Explain it like I'm simple," I said. "Because today I am." "In simple terms?" he answered. "This is a late-filed addendum to Arthur's will. It has two sharp teeth, a no-contest clause and a reputation clause." "Sharp how?" "The no-contest clause says if a beneficiary fights this addendum and loses, the court can cut them out completely. The reputation clause says if a beneficiary, meaning you, does anything in public that can be twisted into harming Arthur's good name or legacy, control can shift to a temporary manager to protect the estate." He flipped to the middle page and tapped a paragraph. "There," he said. "Temporary manager. Your daughter-in-law, Brianna Ellis Parker." "Of course. So if I walk into that hotel tonight and scream that they're thieves," I said slowly, "they can hold up this paper and say I'm unstable, and then she gets control of everything." "Exactly," he said. "And because they filed this quietly, they were probably counting on you to explode in public. One scene, and they'd call it proof. So what do I do?" I asked. "Sit here, knit, and let them sell my life by the inch?" He leaned forward. "You do something harder," he said. "You weaponize quiet. Quiet doesn't feel like a weapon. It is when the other side expects you to be loud," he said. "You don't give them the scene they need. No posts, no public accusations. You document. You take screenshots. You note names, times, details. You let me be loud in the room where this paper actually matters." I looked at the addendum. The language didn't sound like Arthur. It sounded like Brianna's favorite words put through a legal translator. Legacy, stewardship, reputation, temporary management. "Arthur didn't talk like this," I said. "He said our stuff and our home, not legacy assets." "That may help us later," Ethan said. "But first, we need evidence they're abusing this document. And for that, we need someone on the inside." He picked up the phone and dialed. "Ava Torres, please," he told the receptionist. "This is Ethan Ward." He put it on speaker. A woman's voice came on the line, low and steady. "Ava speaking." "Ava, it's Ethan. Quick question. Are you handling something called the Parker Collection for a preview at the Miramar?" Silence for half a second, then. "Yes. We handled intake with Brianna Parker. Why?" "I'm sitting with Helen Parker," he said. "Arthur's widow." There was a sharp exhale on the other end of the line. "The widow who wasn't on any of the approval forms?" she said. "That would be the one," Ethan replied. Ava lowered her voice. "Then we need to talk. Off the sales floor. I kept a parallel record of what I actually saw in that house, and I did not feel good about how this was presented. Can you meet us today?" Ethan asked. "I can spare 20 minutes in the back room," she said. "I'll have a cart ready." He hung up and looked at me. "She sounds awake," he said. "A parallel record?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" "It means somebody didn't like what she was being asked to write," he said, "and decided to write the truth somewhere else." We drove to the gallery near the waterfront. The front space looked like an art magazine. White walls, perfect lighting, quiet music. But behind a coated door, the real work lived. Gray crates, shelves, a metal cart already waiting with folders stacked on it. "Ava Torres," she said, offering her hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes sharper than any security camera. "You're Helen," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. I walked through your house," she said. "With Brianna. She kept calling things common estate pieces. It didn't sit right, so I did my job twice." She opened a laptop on the work table. A spreadsheet appeared, columns laid out like soldiers. Lot, label, actual, notes. She scrolled to a familiar number. L017 label, assorted jewelry, estate. Actual, pearl necklace. Gift from Arthur to Helen after mortgage payoff. Hangs by vanity. Lemon oil smell on wood. Personal piece. Do not group. My throat tightened. "I wrote that after Brianna left the room," Ava said. "She wanted it just as assorted jewelry, estate. No mention of you, no mention of the mortgage. She said buyers don't care about that kind of detail." "Buyers might not," I said, "but judges do." She clicked the next line. L018 label, assorted rings, estate. Actual, gold band engraved inside, a heart's H, Helen's wedding band. Pair with L019, Arthur's band. Not to separate. "Assorted is for buttons in a jar," Ava said, "not for wedding bands and mortgage necklaces." She opened another file, a scanned packet titled Family Approvals. Names filled the lines. Matthew Parker, Ruth Ellis, Carl Ellis, Brianna E. Parker, authorized. There was no line for me. Not even a blank space. I asked who counted as family for these approvals. Ava said. Brianna said, immediate stakeholders. When I asked about you, she said you weren't up for decisions and that they were protecting your peace. Protecting my peace. By selling my jewelry under glass. I stared at the screen. They're acting like I died first, I said. Ava slid a flat crate toward us and lifted a small painting from it. Light on water, a boat big enough for 2 men if they remembered how to share. She turned it over to show the back. There, in faded pencil, in Arthur's brother's handwriting, for Arthur, for all the summer light. S.W. Brianna told me to catalog this front only, Ava said. She didn't want the dedication in the record. I refused. Then I started a parallel sheet and backed everything up. Samuel Whitaker, I said. Arthur's half-brother. They fought for years. This painting was their truce. Then this dedication matters, Ava said. If anybody tries to pretend this is just decor, we can show it's a piece of family reconciliation. That changes how a judge sees it. She clicked one more tab. Correspondence. A PDF opened with a note from a high-end jewelry buyer. Strong interest in jewelry lots L017 to L023. Willing to pre-bid subject to condition check. Pre-bids usually come after family approval and proper notice, Ava said quietly. Here, the timing is aggressive. Why are you risking your job for me? I asked, exhausted by being surprised. I like sleep, she said simply. And I don't like it when a woman's life gets renamed assorted while she's still alive to read the label. She printed the first page of her parallel sheet and slid it into a folder. On the tab, she wrote in block letters. Parker. Truth version. Then she looked me in the eye. They think you're already beaten, she said. A lonely woman they can move around with forms and soft words. Don't give them the scene they want. Give Ethan paper. Give yourself time. On the drive home, the blue envelope lay in my lap, heavier than before. Next to it, Ava's folder. In my head, the hotel photos replayed. My son smiling, my necklace renamed, my ring demoted to assorted. They thought the addendum and the party and the pretty labels made them safe. They hadn't counted on the envelope landing on my doormat the same night they toasted my legacy. They hadn't counted on Ava writing a truth version. They hadn't counted on me learning how to weaponize quiet. When I got home, I set the blue envelope, the addendum, and Ava's folder on my dining table. The same table that had waited with 8 empty plates. I wrote a new list. 1. No public scenes, no posts. Quiet is armor. 2. Screenshot everything. Save every message. 3. Ethan. Check addendum filing, dates, seals, anything crooked. 4. Ava. Chain of custody, labels, approvals, buyer interest. 5. Miramar. What they did last night will not look pretty under courthouse lights. Then, under all of it, one more line. They called it legacy. I'll show the judge what it really was. I touched the pearl necklace at my throat. Not assorted. I told it quietly. Not yet. Not ever. The house listened. And for the first time since Arthur died, I felt something new at the center of my grief. Not just sadness. A clean, focused anger that knew exactly where it was going. Você disse, me manda os blocos 3, 4, 5. O ChatGPT disse, perfeito. Vamos continuar a história no mesmo tom. Forte, emocional, com menos burocracia e mais sensação. Aqui vão. Bloco 3, 4 e 5. Já enxutos e focados em retenção. 2 days later, Ethan called. I pulled the filing, he said. There are things I don't like about that addendum. Crooked seal, odd timing, notes that don't belong. But I need one more piece. I need to see how they're using it in real time. How? I asked. We go to the hotel, he said. Not as the widow making a scene, as witnesses. You stay quiet. You watch. You let the room tell on itself. The Miramar Bay Hotel sits over the water like it knows it's pretty. That night, its ballroom glowed so hard you could see the light from the parking deck. I parked on the lower level so nobody would notice my car. I wore a plain dark dress and my old coat. Nothing that screamed, I belong on the stage. Ethan met me by the elevator, tie gone, jacket over his arm. Remember, he said. Quiet is armor. If you feel your voice rising, touch your necklace instead. My necklace that is apparently lot 17, I said. Exactly, he answered. Let them show off. We followed the sound of music and glass. The ballroom doors were open. Waiters floated in and out with trays of champagne. People wore their best neutral smiles, the kind rich people use when they're deciding if something belongs to them. Along one wall, my things stood under spotlights. My hallway mirror. The little watercolors. A case of jewelry with that same hateful label in polite font. Assorted jewelry, Estate Parker collection. The words felt like a hand on the back of my neck. At the far end of the room, Brianna stood on a low platform with a microphone and a ribbon badge that said, Collection Lead. My son, Matthew, stood beside her, looking like he'd borrowed his own body for the night. Welcome to the Parker Legacy Preview, she said, voice soft and steady through the speakers. Tonight is about honoring a story and placing these pieces in new homes where they will be cherished. Honoring. Story. Cherished. I looked at my mirror, yanked from the hallway where Arthur used to straighten his tie. It did not look cherished. It looked kidnapped. Ethan nudged me gently and nodded toward a man standing near the back wall. Mid-50s, neat beard, the only person in the room not trying to admire anything. His eyes moved from faces to forms, from forms to staff. He noticed us noticing him and gave a small nod. Later I'd learn his name, Jonas Price. But that night he was simply the stranger whose eyes were as suspicious as mine. We kept to the edge of the room, near the water station. Waiters ignored us, which was exactly what we wanted. On a side table, a stack of forms weighted with pens. Letter of interest right of first offer. At the bottom of each page, in faint print, family signatures on file. I looked closer and saw copies of those signatures. Matthew, Ruth, Carl, Brianna. No space for Helen Parker. Not even an empty line. The dealer from Kensley Fine Jewels drifted to the glass case holding my necklace. Lot 17 is lovely, she said. We can place a pre-bid tonight, correct? Absolutely, Brianna answered, gliding over with her curator smile. We've structured things so that family decisions are already in place. Pre-bids tonight, formal sale after inventory. You're sure the owner is comfortable? The dealer asked, more for show than for ethics. She's resting at home, Brianna said, dropping her voice. We're protecting her peace. Protecting my peace. By selling my wedding bands and miracle necklace. I felt my hand close around the pearls at my throat. Ethan whispered, Breathe. I did. Barely. The man near the wall moved closer. He didn't crowd me, just stepped into my line of sight. This room smells wrong, he said quietly, like a man commenting on the weather. I turned. You collect art? I asked. Mirrors, he said, and stories. My name's Jonas. I consult for an elder justice foundation. Rooms like this are my office. Then you must be fully booked tonight, I murmured. He glanced around. Curator badge on a family member, not an actual curator. Preview, that already has paperwork for offers. Owner not present. Language about protecting her peace, used like a shield. Sounds familiar, I said. I'm the piece in question. He didn't flinch. I thought so, he replied gently. If you need a witness later, I can tell a judge what I saw and heard tonight. Under oath. My eyes stung, not from sadness this time, but from relief so sharp it almost hurt. Across the room, a man in a gray blazer handed Brianna a small white envelope. She passed it to Matthew with a quick look. He opened a laptop behind a tall floral arrangement where they thought nobody would see. But mirrors tell the truth, even sideways. In the reflection of my own hallway mirror propped on the display, I saw the screen. A folder name flashed in bright letters. Safeguard subfolders. POA. Capacity eval. Asset holds. Buyer LOIs. A file highlighted itself as Matthew clicked. Safeguard packet V4 PDF. Under the file name, a long string of letters and numbers appeared. Something technical I didn't understand, but Ethan's eyes sharpened. Hash, he whispered. A digital fingerprint. He slipped his phone out and, pretending to check a message, snapped a photo of the screen's reflection. Brianna leaned in close to Matthew, voice low, but not low enough. Send the packet to Dr. Seaver, she said. He wants background before he sees her. It'll help him understand we're already moving her into proper management. Proper management. My skin crawled. Matthew hesitated. Are we sure this is necessary? He asked, sounding like the boy who used to ask if we really had to move houses when he was 12. It prevents mess, she said, tilting her head just enough to seem kind. If she starts calling around, we can show we have a plan. He'll note fragile judgment under stress. Judges sleep better when they think someone's in charge. Then she added, almost as an afterthought, push it to Jonah at the bank too. Tell him to flag the joint accounts under wealth management. Just temporary. We're protecting her from herself. Jonas heard it. I knew he did, because his jaw tightened. I checked my phone. A new message from the bank sat on my screen. We're updating your profile to better serve your wealth management needs. Some services may be paused temporarily as we finalize your care plan. Care plan. The words tasted like metal. I took a screenshot and slid my phone into my bag. Evidence now. Beside me, Jonas leaned closer, as if simply admiring the view. "If anyone asks," he said softly, "I'm here to bid on the mirror," which is true. "But if they try to move you without your consent, call this number." He slipped a card into my hand. "I've seen this pattern before." "What pattern?" I asked. "Make her look fragile," he said. "Call it protection. Take the keys. Then the house. Then everything that smells like her." On the platform, Brianna tapped her glass against the microphone stand. "Last call to register interest," she announced. "We'll be honoring right of first offer tonight. Our goal is to make this transition smooth for everyone." Smooth, like a polished knife. I watched buyers sign forms. I watched staff collect them and slide them into folders. I watched my son stand there like a man who'd convinced himself this was necessary. I did not yell. I did not cry. I stood in a room that treated my life like decoration and did the most dangerous thing a woman in my position can do. I paid attention. When we finally stepped back out into the cold night air, the wind hit my face like a slap, and for once, I welcomed it. My phone buzzed one more time. "Unknown number. Stop digging. The addendum can still cut you out." I typed 3 words and didn't send them. "We'll see who bleeds." Instead, I saved the message under a folder Ethan had told me to create. Paper. Then I drove home, looking at my own porch light from down the street as if it belonged to someone else. Tomorrow, Ethan said we'd go to the county. If the hotel showed us their performance, the records office would show us their footprints. The next morning, I didn't wake up as a victim. I woke up as a woman with a folder and a reason. Ethan drove. I held the blue envelope on my lap like a small, beating heart. The county building smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper, the kind of place that pretends to be neutral. Behind the counter, a man with kind eyes and a tired tie introduced himself as Robert Hale, recorder. "I've been doing this a long time, Mrs. Parker," he said. "Let's look at your husband's addendum, the way the building sees it." He laid a giant ledger on a steel table. The page for the week Arthur died was neat rows of lives reduced to lines, until we reached his. Parker Arthur Addendum. At first glance, it looked official. Then Hale turned the book a little under the light and I saw it. The county seal was crooked. Not a millimeter off because someone was rushed. No, tilted, like a halo that missed the head. The letters around the ring were faintly mirrored in one quadrant, as if the stamp had slipped and bitten twice. "This is not how we stamp," Hale said quietly. "If it lands crooked at closing time, we fix it in the morning." "And this one?" I asked. "This one was never fixed." He slid over a photocopy. In a corner, in smaller, ugly handwriting, someone had added, "Notify Matthew," with 1 T. My son's name is Matthew. Only one person in my life has ever written it wrong in exactly that way. Brianna. I didn't need a law degree to feel insult get up and walk. Hale didn't smile, but his eyes changed. "That note shouldn't be here at all," he said. "It's not in the formal record." He took us downstairs to a room that hummed quietly. Microfilm. The building's memory. On the screen, we saw the addendum cover exactly as it was the day it came in. The same crooked seal, the same tilt. But no, "Notify Matthew." Clean corner, no misspelling. The book and the film were arguing with each other. "Film doesn't lie," Hale said. "It freezes the day. The book, people can add to later." We followed him into a small room with 1 lamp and too many secrets. He pulled the night vault log for the evening the addendum landed. "One thing you need to know," he said. "Any document that goes into the vault after hours is supposed to have 2 signatures. 2 people. No one locks a life alone down here." He pointed to the line with Arthur's name. Time. 6:22 p.m. 1 signature. No second witness. "One hand put my life to bed," I said. "Say it that way in front of a judge," he replied. "They tend to hear better when you don't decorate the sentence." We thought that was enough. It wasn't. Later that day, Hale emailed Ethan a copy of the system log. Plain text, but it felt like a confession. At 7:42 p.m., the original addendum cover was archived. 2 minutes later, at 7:44 p.m., a new cover was pulled in and made active. Same staff login. From a terminal at the Seaview Hotel. Comment: Format normalization. In human language, someone at the same hotel where my legacy preview was happening used a county login to quietly swap the face of Arthur's addendum. Same document number, new cover. Old one pushed into the shadows. My hand went cold around the chair. "That hash number you captured at the hotel?" Ethan said. 7B2F 9E31. The county now shows 7B2F 9E71. Same beginning, different ending. That's not formatting, that's replacement. We didn't scream. We printed. Ethan drafted a motion right there on his legal pad, while Hale watched like a man who had seen too many shortcuts and finally found someone willing to complain about the road. "Here's what we're asking for," Ethan said, laying it out so even my tired heart could follow. "Suspend the addendum until the court can review these irregularities. Stop any auction, preview, or sale. Order the bank to stop playing games with my accounts. Keep every log, every badge swipe, every microfilm frame frozen." "It's not drama, Helen," he said. "It's housekeeping. Courts like clean floors." By late afternoon, we had the clerk's stamp on our motion. The sound of rubber on paper was oddly comforting, like a seatbelt clicking. I barely had time to put the kettle on when the doorbell rang. A man in a crumpled suit and a flat expression handed me 2 thick envelopes. "Service of process," he said, as if he were delivering pizza. The first, a petition for temporary conservatorship, signed by my son through Agent Brianna. The language was neat and poisonous: fragile judgment under stress, susceptible to influence, risk to legacy assets. The second, a temporary order suggesting I be temporarily accommodated off-site for 72 hours, while a wealth team audited everything I owned. "Off-site," I repeated. "You mean a facility?" "Comfort stay," he said, as if the word comfort could soften a cage. After he left, I set both packets on the dining table like they might leak. My birthday runner was still in the drawer. The table had better manners than the people trying to take it. Ethan replied to my photo in seconds. "Standstill motion filed. Judge will see this in chambers. Don't let anyone move you. Don't sign anything. Don't shout. Just show paper." I added a new line to the map in my notebook. Crooked seal. 1 signature in the night vault. Swapped cover from the hotel. Misspelled Matthew on the copy, not in the film. Now, a comfort stay order with my name on it. I put the blue envelope in the center of the table, right where my plate had been the night nobody came. "Arthur," I said out loud, to the room and to the pen he left me, "they're trying to move me like a misplaced chair." The house didn't answer. But for the first time since my birthday, I didn't feel alone in it. The text came at 6:15 p.m. Family dinner. Miramar. 7 p.m. "We can explain. Matthew the Miramar sits over the water like it's too good for land. Glass on 3 sides, tide thudding under the floor, waiters who know how to disappear." When I walked into the private room, Brianna was already seated with a neat stack of folders, like a CEO about to present quarterly earnings. Matthew stood up, eyes soft and guilty. At the far end of the table, Ethan sat with his legal pad and a glass of water. He looked like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire career. "We're worried about you," Brianna started, her voice wrapped in silk. "Your messages, your decisions, we thought it was safer to get ahead of things." She pushed a printed stack toward me. On top, emails from an address that looked almost like mine. Same name, different tiny symbol. The subject line screamed in capital letters, "Cash in jewelry now. Move box to Ruth's garage. No receipts. Delete bank app. Use cash only." Each ended with H. "I don't sign H," I said slowly. "I sign my full name on anything that matters." "The judge won't see that," Brianna replied sweetly. "He'll see intent, risk. We're trying to protect you from yourself." Ethan didn't even pick up the pages. "We'll be requesting full headers," he said calmly. "Time zones, mail path, device strings. If they don't match her providers and habits, they don't belong in this story." Brianna's eyes flashed. She wasn't used to being told her script might not get produced. She slid another stack, text bubbles pasted into a Word document. "Look, messages from Helen talking about shifting cash to friends, hiding assets, not trusting the bank. The blue bubbles were wrong. The timestamp format was wrong. The language was wrong. I could smell the lie like perfume." Before I could answer, Ethan opened his bag and, one by one, placed my items on the table. 1. A page from Ava's parallel sheet. My pearls labeled personal, my wedding band with its engraving noted, the letters between Arthur and Samuel listed as separate, important items. Not assorted anything. 2. 2 photos of the hotel laptop screen, showing the file safeguard packet v4.pdf and the hashtail 7b2f, 9e31. 3. The crooked seal photograph and the night vault line with one lonely signature. 4. A printed photo of the painting's back. "For Arthur, for all the summer light. SW. This is what we have," Ethan said. "A registrar who refused to erase dedications, a swapped cover from a hotel terminal, a seal that was never corrected, a night vault signed by one hand, and a chain of custody letter from the decedent's half-brother's world. You're digging, Helen, Brianna said, as if that were a crime. No, I said. I'm reading. There was a knock on the door. The waiter stepped in, carefully neutral. Mrs. Parker? He asked, looking at me, not at her. There's a courier outside with ID. He says he has a hand-delivered letter for you, from the gallery. He asks that you sign a custody slip. Brianna's jaw tightened just enough to make it beautiful and dangerous. Let him in, I said. The courier smelled like wind and printer ink. He handed me a clipboard first, then a thick envelope with Ava's careful handwriting. I signed the slip. He left without drama. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet in Arthur's hand. I knew the way his letters leaned, the way his K bit the line. Samuel, the lab wants silence. Ethan says an addendum holds better if the town starts its talk. If there's noise, I need you close, not far. I want the summer light to sit where it belongs, in a small foundation for our mother, Lydia, with Helen as curator for life. If I don't finish this before my breath runs short, see that Helen keeps the house as home base, and the rest goes where light does its best work. You know what I mean. A. I didn't read it aloud. I slid it across to Ethan. His face didn't change, but something in his posture did. Handwritten letter in the decedent's hand, he said calmly. More for the future judge than for anyone at that table. Intent. House stays home, foundation for his mother, Helen curator for life. That's the opposite of a liquidation spree. This could be planted, Brianna snapped. We have other samples of Arthur's writing, Ethan replied. We have the gallery's chain of custody. We'll ask for a forensic exam. But what you really don't like is this. The man you're using as a shield just contradicted your story. Matthew took the letter, his hand trembling. I watched his eyes scan the lines, saw the exact second his shoulders dropped. Dad wrote this, he whispered. Not a question. Brianna shoved her fake emails back to the center of the table. We acted because your mother is unstable, she said, speaking to him, not to me. The conservatorship, the comfort stay, the wealth team, all of it was to prevent scandal. You don't want her posting wild accusations online, do you? I haven't posted anything, I said. I've stayed quiet in public, exactly like your precious clause demands. Ethan nodded. That's the irony. The reputation clause you've been waving like a gun? It protects her when she's quiet and builds her case on paper. She's done both. Brianna straightened, finally dropping the mask. Fine, she said. Yes, I pushed things. I moved the filings forward. I told Avery to fast-track the restricted inventory, get the capacity eval going, get the bank to flag the accounts. Do you know why? Because someone had to be the adult. Because if she starts calling around, this whole town will know how messy Arthur really was. I am protecting his legacy. Say that again, please, Ethan murmured. I am protecting his legacy. Good, he said. Now, when the judge reads the email you accidentally sent me about using JM's badge at the Seaview terminal to normalize the cover and put reputation on page 1 and temporary management in bold, he'll know exactly what you thought you were doing. Brianna went pale. Matthew looked from her to me like someone had just pulled a curtain off the wrong scene. Mom, he said softly. Did you send any emails about hiding jewelry? Any texts about cash in garages? No, I said. I was home setting a birthday table. I need to think, he said. You need to stop signing things, Jonas would have said. Ethan said it for him, but gentler. We didn't order dinner. The waiter, bless him, brought bread anyway. Something for my hands to do while the room changed shape. When I got home, I took Arthur's letter out of the blue envelope and read it again at my own table, under my own light. I want the summer light to sit where it belongs, he had written. They tried to sell it by the lot, I told the empty chairs. They forgot you taught me how to read. The next day, Jonas met me at the public library, because sometimes war starts in quiet places. He was waiting at the local history desk with a stack of note cards and that particular calm you only see in people who make a living out of noticing patterns. We're not here to bury them in jargon, he said. We're here to build a simple story a judge can't ignore. We split the work. He took newspapers and probate digests. I took city directories, property maps, and the thin genealogy binder the librarian guarded like treasure. On dusty microfilm, Samuel L. Whitaker appeared, not as a ghost, but as a man. A dock worker turned framer, later listed as an independent assistant to painters. In one yellowed arts insert, we found a small photo. 2 men on a pier at sunset, backs to the camera. I recognized the slope of the shoulders anyway. Arthur on the left, Samuel on the right, heads bent close like brothers who had finally decided to stop pretending they weren't. Jonas slid over a probate notice. Whitaker, Samuel L. died intestate. No spouse. Mentions. Half-brother, predeceased. So, no wife, no children? I asked. Just history, he said. And your husband's guilt. In another clipping we saw, Private Exhibition, S. Whitaker, Coastal Studies. On the donor list, A. Parker. The year was the same one Ava had circled in her notes as Lab Day. Summer light, the small boat painting, the dedication on the back. For Arthur, for all the summer light. SW. We could have drawn a line with our finger from that pier photo to the painting in the gallery, to the letters in Ava's box. On another shelf, Jonas found a worn practice guide for estate lawyers from the 80s. He read a paragraph out loud. In some wills, a good name clause permits temporary redirection of control if the widow stirs public scandal that harms the decedent's reputation. A temporary manager may be nominated to protect and steward legacy assets. He shut the book gently. That's your reputation, Ryder, he said. Not invented, just old. Meant to keep someone from going on the radio screaming about secrets. And now it's being used against me for thinking and asking questions, I said. Not for thinking, he corrected. For threatening someone's control. There's a difference. My phone hummed. It was Ethan with a screenshot from the county IT audit we'd requested. 1942. Original addendum cover archived. Hash 7B2F. 9E31. 1944. New addendum cover ingested. Hash 7B2F. 9E71. User, staff, JM. Location, Seaview Hotel. 2 minutes. Same badge, same hotel where my pearls were sitting under a glass case, misnamed. A second screenshot followed. An email, forwarded to Ethan by mistake before someone tried to recall it. From Brianna Parker to May Avery. Use JM's badge at Seaview tonight to push the normalized cover. We need reputation on page 1 and temporary management in bold. Make sure the checksum won't spook a tea. After the toast, we file restricted. They hadn't just bent the law, they'd written a to-do list about it. Jonas whistled low. That's not a smudge, he said. That's a footprint. We printed both and slid them into a plastic sleeve labeled addendum swap. Another vibration. This time, a digital care plan notice from the bank, gently explaining that some services on my accounts were being paused for my safety. They're trying to make handcuffs sound like a spa day, Jonas said. We'll let the court choose the vocabulary. Around us, the library hummed along. Printers, slow steps, a child whispering a question too loud. We built a simple timeline on a long sheet of paper with big, clear letters. 1980s. Arthur and Samuel letters about Lab Day and quiet. Year of Arthur's death. Addendum intakes with crooked seal. Single night vault signature. Last week. Hotel preview. Safeguards folder. Hash 7B2F. 9E31. Brianna's care plan language. Bank text. Same night. County system swaps cover to 7B2F. 9E71 from a hotel terminal with staff JM's badge. Next day, conservatorship papers and comfort stay order land at my door. Now, motion filed, TRO requested, letter from Arthur arrived. Judges like timelines they can see from across the room, Jonas said. Makes it harder for someone to wave their hands and say, it's complicated. My phone buzzed again. This time, from Matthew. Brianna wants me to sign emergency placement forms for Seaside Senior Living. Says it's just paperwork. Should I? I stared at the message until the letters blurred. No, I typed. Do not sign anything. Come to the house tonight. I'll show you why. He answered, I'll be there. Jonas leaned back. Good. Let him stand in the same room as the evidence. Sons are softer when they can touch the paper themselves. That night, Matthew held the proposed emergency placement form in one hand and our newly assembled timeline in the other. I watched his eyes move over the crooked seal, the one signature vault, the hotel swap, the email with his wife's instructions in black and white. She told me, I was helping you, he said. His voice broke on the last word. You were helping her, Jonas said gently. The good news is, you can stop. Matthew tore the unsigned form slowly in half. I won't let them move you, he said to me. Not now, not like this. You don't have to fight her in the hallway, Jonas added. Just show up in court. Tell the truth once. Let the judge carry it. When they left, the house felt different. Not full, but no longer hollow. Before bed, Hale sent one more quietly explosive line. Staff JM's account is usually used at the daytime counter. That night, it logged in from Seaview Hotel between 1930 and 1950, archived the old cover, ingested the new one, and stopped. He added, I'm fussy about logs. Fussy saves houses, I murmured, sliding the printout behind the others in the blue envelope. I put my palm flat on the drawer where the envelope rested. We are staying, I told the wood. This time the house seemed to say, I heard you. The day before the judge was due to see any of this, the county building showed us its basement face again. Hale met us by the freight elevator, key ring in hand. This part is off the record, he said. If my name appears in your sentences, I'll deny it. But you deserve to see. Under a single ugly lamp, he walked us slowly through the daybook for the addendum. The seal, visibly crooked. Letters on the ring faintly mirrored. Initials out of order. JM scribbled in before CR, then CR squeezed later between seal and vault. A tiny tick in a different pen in the margin. A second thought pretending to be a first. He flipped to the entries before and after Arthur's. Their seals were straight. Their initials marched in order. Our line looked like it had been dressed in the dark. Improper impression, out-of-sequence initials, afterthought mark. Ethan murmured, already turning the phrases into nails he could hammer in later. Then Hale handed us the night vault sheet again. One line, my husband's name, one signature. Policy says 2, he repeated. You can't lock a life alone. On a separate binder, a ghost outline of a sticky note clung to the page. Hale watched me peel it up gently. 3 small words stared back in neat ink. Contact AT before filing. Who is AT? Ethan asked. Officially, Hale said. No one. We don't write on post-its here. They don't exist. But now it did, in my hand. We walked straight from that basement to the clerk. Ethan filed our motion and emergency request to stop any move or sale until a judge could breathe over this mess. The stamp hit at 2:07 p.m. I felt it in my ribs. By early evening, we had the county IT audit, the email where Brianna told her lawyer to use JM's badge at Seaview, the library timeline, Arthur's letter, Ava's notes, Jonas's preliminary report on the fake emails. They all sat together now, like witnesses waiting in a hallway. At 7:30 p.m., headlights washed across my living room. A dark SUV idled at the curb. 2 people got out wearing matching support service jackets and soft smiles. Mrs. Parker? The woman asked sweetly. We're here for your comfort stay. 3 nights. Seaside Senior. Your family arranged it. There will be activities, meals, assessment. It's just to take the pressure off. I didn't agree to go anywhere, I said. She lifted a clipboard. It's already been approved. A temporary order. It's for your safety while the wealth team does their work. Wealth team, comfort stay. The words felt like padded handcuffs. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I did exactly what Ethan had told me. I held up the stamped TRO, temporary restraining order, from the clerk. This, I said, is the most recent paper with my name on it. It says no one moves me or touches my property until a judge has looked at these irregularities. If you try to take me tonight, you're not helping me. You're part of the problem. I hit speaker on my phone. Ethan's voice filled the doorway. I'm Miss Parker's counsel, he said calmly. Any attempt to move her now is a bad faith action that will go in front of the same judge who signed that stamp. If you want your names in that story, keep going. If not, say you couldn't complete the transfer and leave. They looked at the paper, at my phone, at each other. We'll note refusal, the man said. You'll note lack of consent, I corrected. There's a difference. One sounds like I misbehaved. The other sounds like I still know what no means. They retreated. The SUV rolled away. I stood there with the TRO in my hand, and my heart hammering so hard it could have knocked pictures off the wall. I made tea because my hands needed something that wasn't shaking. At the dining table, I opened my notebook and updated the map. Basement, crooked seal, wrong order of initials, odd tick in the margin. Vault, 1 signature instead of 2. System, hotel swap from 9031 to 9071. Email, Brianna wanting normalized cover. Reputation on page 1. Temporary management, in bold. Post-it, contact AT before filing. Tonight, attempted comfort transfer, stopped at the door with a stamped TRO and a speakerphone. I stuck the post-it gently between 2 clean pages so it wouldn't vanish. Outside, my neighbor Mrs. Ellis turned her porch light on and left it that way, like a small lighthouse across from my own. We'd promised the night before that if anyone strange showed up on either doorstep, we'd call each other before we called anyone else. I set the blue envelope on the table and wrote, on its flap, in thick ink, "We are staying," not as a wish, as an instruction. The house didn't answer out loud, but for the first time since this started, the walls felt less like witnesses and more like allies, holding everything we'd gathered, waiting for morning and the judge. Courtrooms don't care how old you are or how pretty your dress is. They care about posture, paper, and whether your voice shakes for truth or for performance. I chose a simple navy dress, the same one I'd worn the night nobody came to dinner. It felt right to bring it back to the place where someone might finally listen. Ethan carried the binders. Matthew walked beside me, silent but solid. In the hallway, I saw familiar faces. Jonas leaning against a column with his notebook closed, Ava holding a tan folder, Hale in a clean shirt that still couldn't hide how tired he was. We didn't hug. We nodded. Enough. Inside, the courtroom was colder than it needed to be. The judge took her seat, mid-50s, tired eyes that still noticed everything. She clicked her pen once and looked down at the docket. Parker, Arthur, addendum, she read, and related petition for temporary conservatorship. Price and Avery's lawyer, Ms. Avery, stood first. Smooth suit, smoother voice. Your Honor, she began, this is a simple protective matter. Ms. Parker has been sending alarming communications, talking about hiding assets and cashing out jewelry. My client, Brianna Parker, acting under a limited power of attorney executed by Miss Parker's son, took reasonable steps, scheduling a capacity evaluation, initiating a gentle 72-hour comfort stay, and arranging a restricted inventory to protect legacy assets. She lifted a paper. We also have emails from Ms. Parker herself, instructing others to move jewelry off-site with no receipts and to delete banking apps. We're asking for a temporary conservatorship and permission to complete a restricted inventory. The judge glanced at me briefly, then at Ethan. You'll have your turn, Mr. Ward, she said. Ethan rose, binder in hand. Your Honor, this is not a simple protective matter, he said. This is a pattern, an addendum with a crooked seal and out-of-sequence signatures, a document swap from a hotel ballroom during an estate preview, a bank care plan triggered by that swap, forged emails used to paint Ms. Parker as reckless, and a handwritten letter from the decedent that describes a completely different idea of legacy than what's being pushed here. He slid the judge's copy of the binder to the clerk. We're asking the court to deny the conservatorship, suspend the addendum pending review, restore Ms. Parker as executrix under the original will, stay all sale activity, and appoint an independent auditor. And we've brought witnesses who can speak to each step of this pattern. Call your first, the judge said. Hale went first. He swore in with the flat confidence of a man who works with stamps for a living. In your own words, Ethan said. What did you find when you reviewed the Parker addendum? Hale spoke plainly. The seal on the intake page is crooked, he said. Mirror letters from the stamp are visible. There's no corrected impression, which is not standard. The night vault log shows a single signature after hours. Policy requires 2. Our IT audit shows that on the night of the hotel preview, a staff account logged in from the Miramar Bay Hotel Business Center, archived one version of the addendum cover, and uploaded another 2 minutes later. Different digital fingerprint. He paused. In plain terms, he added, the paperwork was changed from a hotel at night by someone using our badge. Ms. Avery tried to soften it. People make mistakes, she said on cross. Seals get crooked. Staff work remotely. Yes, Hale said. But mistakes usually get corrected in the morning. This one didn't. And there's no legitimate reason I've seen for swapping an addendum cover from a hotel. Ava testified next. She described the inventory, how she'd been told to label things as assorted and common, but had written the truth instead. Personal, engraved, gifted. She explained how she'd refused to erase the dedication on the painting, how she'd started a parallel sheet because something felt wrong, how she'd found Arthur's letter to Samuel in the box with the Whitaker letters and logged it under standard registrar procedures. Do you have anything against my client? Ms. Avery asked. I like sleep, Ava answered. I like records that match reality. That's all. A small smile tugged at the corner of the judge's mouth and disappeared. Jonas followed. He wasn't dramatic. He didn't need to be. He talked about being at the hotel as a potential mirror buyer and as an elder justice consultant, about seeing the safeguards folder on the laptop, hearing Brianna discuss sending a packet to Dr. Seaver to frame me as fragile under stress, and listening as she told someone to flag my bank accounts under wealth management before I'd even been told anything was happening. He mentioned his preliminary look at the supposed emails from me. The header patterns don't match her provider, he said. The time zones are wrong, the client string is wrong, and the message ID chain suggests they were assembled, not sent. In my work, that usually means forgery. Finally, Ethan asked the judge to review Arthur's letter under seal. It goes to intent only, he said. We're not offering it for anything except what Mr. Parker wanted done with his estate. Ms. Avery objected. Hearsay, too convenient, conveniently found now, but the judge waved it off. I'll review it in chambers, she said. Under seal, for limited purpose. Then it was my turn. Ethan kept it simple. Ms. Parker, he asked, have you posted publicly about your late husband in a way that would harm his reputation? No, Your Honor, I said. Are you paying your bills? Yes. Do you understand what's happening with your house and your belongings? More than I ever wanted to, I answered, and a low ripple went through the courtroom. Do you want to be placed in a facility for 72 hours while others inventory your things? He asked. No, I said. I want to stay in my house and have a chance to show you the truth on paper. Ms. Avery held up the fake emails. You didn't send these? She asked. No, I said. I don't write in all caps. I don't sign H. And I don't ask strangers to hide jewelry in garages. I bake lemon cake and set tables. That's who I am. Someone using your address did, she pressed. Someone using my name did, I corrected. Those are not the same thing. The judge looked down at the binder, then at Ms. Avery, then at Ethan. I'm going to recess briefly, she said. I want to read the letter and the audit logs in chambers. She left. 10 minutes stretched into 20. I stared at the grain of the wood on the bench in front of me and counted breaths. When she came back, her expression hadn't changed, but the air had. Here is what this looks like to me, she began, voice calm and heavy. A widow who has not gone public, who is managing her life, who set a table no one came to, but who is being painted as unstable so others can move quickly behind her back. A legal addendum that appears to have been altered from a hotel ballroom. A bank care plan triggered by those alterations. And a letter from the decedent that describes a foundation in his mother's name, with his widow as curator for life and the house as home base. She clicked her pen once, then read the order. Petition for temporary conservatorship, denied. No compulsory evaluation, no forced placement. All pre-auction and sale activity, stayed. No sales, no previews, no letters of intent until this court says otherwise. The contested addendum, suspended pending full review of the irregularities. The original will controls in the meantime. Ms. Helen Parker, restored as executrix. A neutral auditor will be appointed to conduct an independent inventory. Ms. Torres will serve as registrar of record for fine items. Finally, the court is referring the matter to the district attorney's elder justice unit to evaluate possible document fraud and financial exploitation. She looked directly at Ms. Avery. And the emails allegedly from Ms. Parker, she added. Court T will examine the headers. If they are inauthentic, they will not darken this courtroom again. Then she looked at me. Ms. Parker, she said. You have done something very difficult. You stayed quiet in public and loud on paper. That is exactly how this clause was meant to work. Not as a weapon against you, but as a shield. My throat burned. Thank you, Your Honor, I managed. By the time we stepped back into the hallway, my legs felt weak in a new way. Not from fear, but from the sudden permission to stand properly. Matthew turned to me, tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, he said again. I know, I replied. Now go help fix what you helped break. The auditor's going to need someone who knows where we keep the winter blankets. He laughed through his tears. It sounded young, for the first time in a long time. Back home, the house felt different. The porch light I'd turned on for guests that never came was now just light. Not a question, a fact. I went to my vanity and took my pearl necklace off the safe hook where I'd put it after all this started. I clipped it around my neck and looked at myself in the hallway mirror. Not assorted jewelry, not common estate, just Helen, widow, mother, curator of a life they had tried to break into pieces and sell under hotel lighting. Later at the dining table, Ethan helped me draft the first lines of something new. Lydia Foundation, draft purpose house as home base. Small grants for library programs, doc families and local art. Curator for life, Helen Parker. Board to include the Samuel Whitaker Chair, honoring reconciliation and summer light. I signed with Arthur's old fountain pen. The ink bled slightly into the paper like it remembered. When I finished, I stacked 3 things together on the table. Arthur's letter, the judge's order, the foundation draft, past, verdict, future. Once they sold my life as legacy, while I sat alone at a table for 8. Now I sat at a table for 1, with a pen, a plan, and a house that was still mine. It wasn't the ending I imagined when I baked the lemon cake, but it was an ending I had chosen. And tomorrow, if I set a table again, it will be for people who show up because they see me, not because they smell an estate. I turned off the dining room light. The porch light stayed on.